Testing? Okay, that's working. Hi, I'd like to welcome you all to Miners Home Museum. For those of you that don't know, I'm Phyllis Bittner. I was a Lippischak, grew up here in Franklin. My ancestors were all in the mining industry. My dad quit school at the age of 12 to go to work in the mines. So this is all near and dear to my heart, as I know many of you had the same situation, your ancestors. It's wonderful to see this large of a crowd, and we knew that Carmen and Jimmie would attract a crowd. We know it's going to be. So I'm just going to welcome David. We appreciate all that you've done. He's hosting this quarterly exhibit, and he always does an outstanding job for us. And we thank him for coming to all of our programs. I think I lost it. And he videotapes them all. So if you haven't been to some of them and you want to see them, if you'll follow us on Facebook, we post a link and you can go back and watch all of the programs. And it's not just Miners Home Museum. He went to the Gay Parade and he goes to a lot of different places and documents all of this history, so it's wonderful. So like I say, follow us on Miners Home Museum on Facebook and you'll be able to see all of those videos. But David, we thank you for all that you do. And David does this all as a volunteer. He's not paid for any of this. So it's a wonderful thing that he is doing for all of Southeast Kansas. So we welcome you all today. Hope you enjoy the program. We know you will. And David, I'll let you come up and introduce your guest and turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming. I've got my job today is to do something that doesn't need to be done, and that's to introduce Jimmie and Carmen. And you all know it. I mean, I don't imagine there's a handful of you that don't know Jimmie and Carmen. They're just a wonderful resource of information. Jimmie is who got me involved in this whole history thing to start
I'm
with.
here to help.
One day, 5 years ago, I think almost 5 years ago, Jimmie come up to me and says, "What do you know about weird coal mining history?" But he asked me what do I know about weird coal mining history, and I've been working on it ever since, and it's been real rewarding for me. It's just wonderful. And I could go through this room and name about half of you here that have helped me with these projects that I've done, and it's just been real good for me. It's just that I retired 10 years ago, and this has been my vocation since, and I really love it. It's great. You know, it's allowed the social interaction I have with the community in learning about coal mining and the history of this area has been wonderful. But these two guys right here are my main resource. These guys know, they were in it, they did it, and I'm going to turn it over to Jimmie now and Carmen. And I get the pleasure of listening. I go down to Brutus a lot and talk to these guys, and it's just amazing to me what they know and what they will share. And they share openly, and all of you have. So thank you very much for coming. I know there's a lot going on right now, things you could be doing that you're not. You're here, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Jimmie,
okay.
It's all yours, buddy.
All right. Well, it's hard for me to say. I have to stand up, but I'll sit down. What I would like to know is how many coal miners are in here? Raise your hand that is a coal miner.
Yes.
All right. I see you, Larry. Not as many as I thought. Okay, how many have you been to Big Brutus in the last 5 years? Ooh, a lot more. Yeah, good. We're glad that you come and visit us. We are one of the biggest tourism in Southeast Kansas. I don't know whether you know it or not, but we, in the last 5 years, we have tried to improve it for tourism. And it has just went above and beyond what we expected. We've had 2 new managers. The first one was there 2 years and a half. The other one has been there a year and a half. And last year we had 21,400 visitors to Big Brutus. This year we're already about 400 or 500 ahead of that. So it is quite a tourism place. But anyway, we'll get on into the pictures. This is Big Brutus. this is what we've done. All these things is what we've done in the last 5 years to improve Brutus. We've added that, all the front end there, we've added that to it. The machine, we've rearranged and added more to it. Has anybody ever heard of the big giant, the little giant? Okay, you know where that was built? Anybody know where it was built? In Mulberry, Kansas. Who was it built?
Albert Malley.
Albert Malley built it.
He was relation to the ones that had the filling station on Broadway, South Broadway.
Oh, Malley, yeah, on
Somebody's relation, yeah.
Broadway and Quincy.
And his grandson that run the filling station had never come out and watched it operate. That little machine there operates just like Big Brutus does. You can swing it, you can pick up dirt, rock, dump it, just exactly like Big
Carmen
Brutus.
spent all day one day operating it for one of the events.
Yeah,
We operated it here for.
We had it here.
Yeah,
Three of
that's right.
us took turns. We operated it through this museum
Yeah.
on loan to them. And they said it's got 30,000 rivets in it. I never counted them, but this guy said it took him 11 years to build it. And we have a picture out at Brutus of the little shop he built it in. He didn't have anything special, just a little Model T shop with a file and a hammer and a forge probably. Took
Did it.
11 years.
tremendous job.
There's been 3 owners, and that has been the builder, Albert Malley, P&M, and Brutus. So there's only been 3 owners. So we got it permanently.
And the little drag line that's sitting right there beside it, it was donated to it, but it was hand built. And it's just exactly like the drag lines run. You can pick up dirt, gravel, whatever with it, swing it, dump it, and walk it backwards. It always walks backwards, never walks forward. Well, who is the guy who wanted to know how do you make it go forward? A drag line don't go forward, it always goes backwards. And because it has pontoons and it walks. The shovel, big shovel, it crawls like a crawler. But that thing walks just like a duck. There is a little bigger picture. Did you want a picture of that? Okay, this was donated to us. This is just like an orchard plant. We used to have one at East Mineral, and after it closed down, we moved to Mine 19, and they built a brand new tipple out there. And I'll show the picture of it a little later on. This is a little prospect drill that was donated to us, and you can tell it's got a lot of age on it. And
That also came from Mulberry, Kansas. I believe her name was Perry. Her last name, and she called and said she donated, and it had been in the barn for 50 years. And we went and looked at it, and the wheels were sunk in the ground. They're solid rubber tires, and we got it and brought it to Brutus. But she said her dad used to prospect for the coal companies with that.
So that's been around a long time. And this is some more of it. Back at that time, and it got a lot more modern, but they hauled the coal up there to a hopper, crushed it, went on a belt up to the top of the tipple, and they crushed it again, sized it, washed it, shipped it on a rail car.
Jimmy, is there anybody got a better collection of mining models than Big Brutus anywhere?
Not that I know of.
I was thinking about there's more.
There's gotta be some now, yeah.
But I mean,
don't
there's
know.
more here than I can't imagine anybody has more of these than we do.
No.
That particular model was donated to us from John Marietta. I don't know who built it.
There's a whole nother story, John
Yeah.
Marietta.
Yes, that
Oh,
is
my
another
goodness.
story. This right here was put together by a man, and it's to scale, eighth inch.
187, it's HO
187.
scale, it's a diorama, and that's actually how Brutus operated You can see on the high wall the way we got the cable, we got the power to Brutus. And the pickups, everything's 1 to 87, everything is to scale there. And that pit, if Brutus was digging it, that would be 34 feet deep.
And Carmen can tell you whose truck that pickup truck was. And Harold, is that your grader?
That's Harold Scheider's
That's
grader.
Harold's grader, that's the superintendent's pickup. This is a little electric box. If one man had to be down in the pit when we changed power cables, 1,500 feet on each end. When they go 1,500 foot, we stop, shut the power off, change that cable from the other end of the machine into that little box. Man up on top, turn the switch on, and go back. How many minutes did it take us?
Well, we could change cable within 15 minutes.
And the machine was back to running. These are the haul trucks. That's G.G. Saketta's loader right there. This is the oil truck. That's our electrician truck. This is the man that cleaned the coal face.
That's Paul Burgent up front.
I think that was, well, yeah, Paul was probably the last one to run it. And there's his daughter sitting right back there. Is that right? I haven't seen her in years.
And Claudia Smith's on the other side ripping coal in the D9.
Who?
Claudia Smith.
Oh, yeah, Claudia Smith. That would be, the little E9 would be this one right here. But that's exactly our daily activity.
That particular model was sanctioned by Caterpillar, and the classic construction model built 60 of them. And they're all made out of brass, and the serial number on that one there is 02/60. That was the second one built.
Second one ever built.
There won't be any more.
Now I'm gonna tell you the rest of the story. This is the man that built it, right here.
Good job, Nick.
He did a tremendous job, and we are awful proud of it. This is a little deep mine wagon that they haul coal. They load them by hand, put them in there, and then the mules would pull them up the rails. They had rails all underneath, all undermined. I worked 40 years and 8 days in the coal mines. I never got to go into a deep mine. I was ready to go in. My dad sold mules to him, and I was going to go into a mine that day with him. And the cable that lifted the box up, they was changing it, and I never got to go. But deep miners did not like to go out and work on the surface, and the surface miners did not want to go in the mine. I talked to a friend of mine the other day, and he worked for P&M down in Mexico, Arizona, and he said he went down and he had a bit of job. His job to stay in the coal mines, he had a bit of job underground. He said, Jim, I hated it. He said, I hated every day I went to work. And so I don't know whether I would or not, but I kind of think I would from what I hear. Okay, this here is a fan, a deep mine fan. Carmen, tell them about it.
That ventilating fan, it was over an air shaft, and that was from Cherry Creek Coal Company, and that was about 2.5 miles east of Mineral and maybe a half a mile north. And that was the last deep mine in Cherokee County. And it operated probably 1947 to probably 1952, within a year or two there. And Angelo Telp from Mineral worked in that mine, and also did my dad. So when I look at that fan, I can imagine my dad breathed some air blown in the mine by that fan. So that's probably the only one we know of in existence. So maybe there's more somewhere, but that's kind of unique too. That bucket behind it is a 45-yard bucket. That would be half the size of what Brutus is. And that came off of a 5561 Marion shovel in Bonita, Oklahoma. Peabody Coal Company donated that to us.
And when they hauled it in, they were thinking about on that exit that goes out to the shovel, it's got big double doors there, they were going to mount it where you had to walk through it. it fell off the truck right there. It has stayed there. That's been several years ago, and they keep bringing it back up. Said, "What, can't we ever get that up?" I said, "Well, then you want to talk about it." Here's our haul trucks. When I went to work for PDM, that's a truck. I drove number 5. That was Dover carries number 4. But them was 40 yarders. Then we got 120.
120 yards.
120 yards, and we don't have a picture of them. Hopefully someday we can get a truck like that. The truck behind there was a gob truck, which that's the slurry and stuff. Has to clean the coal. It goes out, and then they haul that out from underneath the tipple and dump it in a big pot.
Them haul trucks that size, I think they had 8 of them. And I think they had 4 at mine 18 and 4 at mine 15. And mine 18 and mine 15 were field hoppers. They hauled the coal from the pit to a hopper, and then it was loaded on the train cars and brought to East Mineral for the preparation plant. So then them trucks hauled coal for World War II. It probably come out in the late 30, 38, 39.
And later on, when you started using Big Brutus, the haul trucks were much larger than this.
Yeah, but them was originally brought to Brutus, or brought to mine 19.
That's when 950 shovel. Before Big Brutus came, we had a 950, and when Brutus started, like Carmen said, they passed on each other. One coming out of the pit, one going down the pit, and they tore it down and sent it to Arizona or Mexico. Arizona. Because this is a little. That's how they graded the roads. They used to have a tongue in that, and they put them with horses. And then they got a little mortar and they put a dozer on them, and a little small dozer. And then they graduated up to this one. This one here has a big Stratton engine, right? Sits right here, right there, and run the controls on it. But I doubt if there's another one in the world, is there, Harold?
I run that.
Did you?
You run that one right there?
Well,
One like it?
one just like it. Not very long, but the county had one and we used it some.
Would that be the one here?
Yeah, you pull it with a dozer. You pull it with a dozer. It
But-
had that little motor in there to run the control.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was
we
modern then,
cleaned out
wasn't
some
it?
ditches that was kind of wet and that, and they put me on it. I run it.
Oh, good.
And we need you in Mineral right now.
These are some more little car, undermined coal cars that's whenever someone, I don't know how it is, but whenever they tell me how they're on their knees and mining coal under there, I thought, oh my, I'm glad I'm not there.
But these are replicas. Those were never used.
No, them wasn't, now this is original.
This is a real deal.
This is a larger one, but that is and we're going to rebuild that one. We're going to redo it. We got an awful good maintenance man out there at Big Brutus, and he loves to do things like that. So we're doing a lot of, made a lot of changes. This is a little shovel. It had a motor right in the back end of it, and I believe it. And Harold, you can tell me if they could put a dragline bucket on, couldn't they?
On what?
On this little shovel. They could either have a shovel
Yeah.
bucket or a dragline.
Right.
And there's not very many. I doubt you could come up with one anywhere.
But you couldn't go very deep with a shovel like this.
No, you wouldn't. Big Brutus went 69 feet. And you sure ain't gonna take it into that way.
Because you got to be able to lift it up out of that far.
Oh yeah, well you gotta get rid of your dirt. It's the main thing in there. Did you ever see one of them operate?
Not really. I've seen it up around it, but I've never seen one.
We are looking for a motor for that. If we find one, we're going to install it, make it kind of like back to original. This is Dave, you wanted to talk about that one.
Well,
about the motor.
it's something
on
I never knew until just lately, is that starter motor on there. Now, this is a big diesel engine. It'd be used to run a cat or
Right
about
right
anything.
here.
But that right there is the starter motor, and they couldn't just go up and start a diesel engine. They had to start this little gas engine. And you see the spark plugs, if you can see them, the little white things there, that's the spark plugs. That's a gas engine. And they pull start that, like you do a mower or something. They have levers there that you start that, and then you engage it to the flywheel of the engine. And I would imagine that's quite a trick, doing that just right to make it engage without stalling out your engine and get that diesel. And they say they sometimes had to run it for several hours before that diesel would start running good. Because diesels then needed to be hotter than they do now. You can start a Kubota tractor now. I just go and start my Kubota unless it's really, really cold, you know, sub freezing. My Kubota will start just right like that without even the glow plugs or anything. But this engine would not start without a lot of help. And that's what that engine right there was for. And there were a lot of different brands and manufacturers who had starter engines on them.
I was running. Caterpillar had them in a grader. They had those. I run them back in the 50s.
Was it a trick to engage the starter
Well,
motor with the engine?
Yeah, you had to start it with that rope. It was a rope start, and then you got it running, and you kicked over on diesel. But you'd have to let it whirl that diesel, you know. So you thought it, you pulled the throttle back, and she caught. You was in bed and you didn't. You shut it down, run it some more until you got to a start. You know.
And then the colder it was, the harder it was to start.
That's
Oh yeah,
right.
when it was cold, you'd have to let it spin that diesel quite a while. But yeah, back in the 50s, there was a lot of them around. There's a lot of them.
And then the bending spring was the major technological advancement. The bending spring and the electric battery and all that was one of the major
Changeover.
technological advances that allowed for a regular starter like we
Right.
use now.
They put the big batteries in there, went electric start.
Okay, here was a little drag line, page drag line that Mr. Wilkerson, which has gave the Wilkerson drag line to Miners Hall Museum. They donated that to us. I didn't get in on it, but this band did. They have 2 wrecks with it?
2 wrecks, and took 5 years. Well, this was all volunteer work, and it took us 5 years from start to finish.
You got in on some of that, didn't you, Harold?
Yeah, Harold come over there and mowed the poison ivy. We had poison ivy about 6 foot tall. When we started.
Oh. This is a little drag line. Now this in here, you can put a shovel bucket on it. It's got the pins where, you know, you took it out. We do not have a shovel bucket for it. Midwest Minerals gave it to us, and the man that worked there hauled it out to us, and we're still looking. I'm gonna find a dragline bucket and cable to put on there so it'll show. But it's in real good shape. And it was made by Bucyrus Erie too.
Same people that made Brutus.
Thank you. Same one that built Big Brutus. This is a P&H drag line that sat over here on the river for several years. They dug river gravel with it, had a dredge bucket on it. It was given to us, and we finally got over there. That weighs, what that weigh, 50 ton?
I don't know, it wasn't quite that much, I don't think, but
Well, the shovel weighed 40 ton, didn't it? The little shovel. But anyway, we took the boom off in the bucket and hauled it over. Well, for a while before we could find somebody who would move it. And one day there was a man out there from Taylor, Crane. Yeah, that's all. Taylor Crane, and he was going through there one day, and the manager said, "Boy, we'd sure like to get our drag line moved." Well, he said that our company donates a lot of time for that. Said, I think I'd get Art Wallace, and Taylor is big. They're a huge crane company. So I went. He went over and talked to him. And that guy said, all you have to do is pay for the labor. And they picked that up with big straps, loaded it on a big trailer. They had to go back and get a larger trailer because it wasn't big enough for that. I followed them down 400 highway, 70 mile an hour. I thought, my goodness, do they know where they're going? They're gonna get stopped and jerked at a four-way stop. They pulled over and swung around there and took that down there, but I followed them, 70 mile an hour. But I tell you what, you could eat off the floor of those machines. They were spotless.
No, oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to show you one more.
Soon as we get around to it, and you know, having a museum like that, we had one guy that worked for us. He said, "You guys volunteers going to work us out of a job." He wouldn't live long enough for that. Every day we've got something going on. But we've got a man that's going to raise a boom, and whenever we get cables on it, it's got a bucket on it. Now this is a little machine that I like to talk about. This little machine was made back in 1929 and 30. No electricity. He built it out of his grandpa's 2 junkyards. Put it together, designed it, and Harold, tell me if you know anything other than that, Carmen.
This is built by Perry Markley and is built within 3.5 miles of where Brutus now sits. And during the process, he invented the round dipper stick cable crowd cable retract. And
Talk about the dipper stick.
you can see the similarities between it and Brutus. And there was an article in Illustrated Mechanics in July 1930, and we have a copy of the original magazine that tells his story. And they sent, Bucyrus Erie sent engineers out to look, and they took pictures of this shovel here and took it back to Milwaukee. And if you look at Brutus, you'll see it has the cable crown, cable retract.
We're going to get to a picture where it shows both of them making side by side.
When you went to work for P&N, that was one of the first things you heard, or the first thing I heard, you know, how Bucyrus Erie stole the idea from Perry Markley and invented here in southeast Kansas. And I think, well, I heard anyway, that he was offered a job with Bucyrus Erie, but they got the patent on it. He didn't have the patent on it. But there were several models built with this cable crown, cable retract. And first, that 950 you see, it was built right ahead of Brutus in 1938. It has a cable crown, cable retract. First one I was ever seen was a 1935 950 with 30 yard, and it had that same system on it. But that is really unique. It's historical. It's built right here in southeast Kansas, just like that little guy. You know, this guy built it on a farm with no electricity. Back in the 20s.
And no blueprint, all out of his brain.
They built it out of junk. They said his brother had a junkyard in Joplin, and he goes.
Yeah, his grandpa had two junkyards, and he gathered.
You can read the article there in Brutus Museum. Tells about it, and we think that's where Bucyrus Erie got the idea to send people down to look at it. They copied it.
It was powered by 2 Studebaker engines and 3 radiators. He found out that he didn't need both engines, so he went to 1 Studebaker engine and 1 radiator. When we went and got it, there was a tree growing right up in there like that big around. These here was 1.5 feet down in the dirt, and it was back in a timber, but nothing but trees. And you know what it's like back in a timber when it rains? We did good. We got it loaded, didn't have no accidents of any kind, but it started raining. And it rained. We wound up, Taylor, which is going to move the big drag line here, had some big planks, steel planks. They were 12 by 12 steel planks. And we laid that down in front of the truck, and drove over them and took bobcats and just kept putting them around the front till we got out on a solid. But we never had an accident. That was amazing. But we're pretty proud of it. The reason they went to the stick was they'd get big rocks on this bucket, and they had two arms went up there, and they were rack and pinion. And whenever the big rock get on there, it would bend them things. Well, he invented this so that when he got a big rock on there, he could go over there and that thing would swivel and dump that rock on. And that's why Bucyrus Erie won that patent. I heard they offered him a job, they offered to buy the machine from him, and he didn't know at the time it wasn't patented. But Bucyrus Erie did. And so they got the patent on it. Now, they've got a picture of my dad up on the boom working on it when they were putting it together. And I've been told several different people. Him and Lauren Ledford, I don't know if anybody knows Lauren Ledford. Him and my dad was up on there helping put it together. So that's several years ago. There it is there. John Parsons built that little ladder up the side of it for us. John Parsons has been really good to us. And I mean, we ask him for something, I don't care what it is, he jumps to it and gets it done. Okay, this right here is what drives it. That's what you move the machine with it. That log chain. It's a pretty good sized log chain. And somebody asked me, said, well, what was these left on there for, them rods that stuck out there? Well, if it got stuck, they would put a bulldozer on each side of it and help push it out. Did you know that, Harold? Yeah, that's what they said that for, to push it out if it happened to get stuck. We are pretty proud of it.
That chain drive, that is driven by the swing. In order for it to propel, you had to put a pin, there was a big round pin between the upper deck and the lower deck, which is revolving. So it would swing when you didn't have that pin in there, and you put that pin in there, then it wouldn't swing, and you could drive it forward. And you had to pull the pin out to get to digging again. So really unique.
We got it sitting on rock, but Mr. Trilas Parsons had two great big transformers. It's sitting on a plate like that on each track on top of the rock. So it like Brutus, it ain't gonna sink.
I think
No way.
Tronic donated it.
Trotman, That's part of the inside that he made all the parts out of his grandpa's junkyard.
Well, that's what gets me, is this all came out of the mind of Perry Markley.
Yes.
He was not an engineer. He did not have a degree. He wasn't a draftsman. He just did this.
Yeah, and they said he built guns. Another one of his professions was building guns. That's some more inside of it. That's where the operator sat.
That's the comfortable seat.
They sat in the field for 50, 75 years or something like that.
Yeah.
There you can see the similarities between the round dipper stick cable crown cable retract. You know, that's why we place it right there. So if there's any doubters, they can look at one and look at the other. The one was built in the 20s and the other in 63 or 62. And there's that copy of the Illustrated Mechanics where his story is in there, that we think maybe that's where Bucyrus Erie got onto it.
We've been looking for an original good copy of it. It's July 1930 Illustrated Mechanics. And if you find one, we want it.
Yes, we do. You tell them about this, Carmen.
That Lorraine came from between Bonita, Oklahoma and Tulsa, Oklahoma. A friend of mine, Dewey Willis, who was an operator for Peabody Coal Company, he found it. Took me down there and said, we want that. Heck yes, we want it, so we got it.
You can tell about that.
That is a rotary dump at East Mineral Mine 15 Tipple. There was a Mine 15 Tipple, and that's it. And a Mine 15 Field Hopper, which we talk about where the trucks hold. This is a Mine 15 Tipple, and it tipple coal from Mine 18 and Mine 15 Field Hoppers. And they brought them in by train, and there was a hill behind that. And they brought them loaded coal cars down one at a time, stopped them in there, dumped them over, and then brought another one in. That's the way they got their coal into the tipple. This operated from 1928 till 1951, and that's when Mine 19 came along, operated from 1951 to 1974. We have some people here. I think Joanne's uncle was killed at that mine, wasn't he?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think there was a brother to Alvin Johnson killed at that mine too. I believe he was dropping cars or something.
September 1934.
34?
Yeah, September 13th, 1934.
And they still use this kind of a system. I saw a YouTube video the other day of two of these in line, and there were two next to each other. So there were four. They do 4 cars, and they still use the rotary dumps.
Yeah.
In the modern version.
And they
now-
did at Empire too. Did they use that till it closed? They use a rotary dump out
Yeah,
there.
In the modern version, they don't have to uncouple the
That's
car
right.
because they've got bearings in there and they can just run one end at a time and rotate it right in place, move on down. This one here was one at a time, and it was just a single car.
I think now they get, all this coal comes from Wyoming, goes down in Arkansas and down in there. They tell me they never stop. They just keep dumping. Rotor over, dump them out. And they say the same way out there when they're loading them. I think there's over 200 rail cars of coal that comes in on each trip.
Empire could unload a train load in about a couple of hours. Empire over here, when they was a coal operated plant, could empty a coal train in about 2 hours.
2 hours.
And this was 1 mile east of West Monroe. This was at 40th and 102 now.
Yeah.
That's where Mine 15 was.
Now this is a picture of the old 950 that Big Brutus took the place of. Tore it down and chipped it there.
That was built about 3/4 of a mile in front of Big Brutus in 1938. That particular machine. And there again, you see that round dipper stick cable crowd cable retract come out in 1938 after Prairie Markley. So that was one of the earlier models with his system on it.
That's just another coal truck.
Well, that's Don Blessant there.
Huh?
That's Don Blessant.
Oh, yeah,
Don
Don,
Blessant.
yeah, Matt Blessing, you know, that
His
has,
grandson has a
yeah, has a
quarry.
rock quarry. And by the way, Don Blessing, or Matt, has furnished more rock to Big Brutus. I mean, I'm talking about several hundred tons of rock. And I talked to him the other day. He had some people come from India that he bought some equipment up, because I understand he's putting an asphalt plant out every the other. I said, Matt, we appreciate all the rock. I said, I get that. Kind of sound like a mooch. And I said, I kind of hate to say anything. He looked me in the eye and he said, you know where the rock's at. And we still need, and I'll show you some more of what we did with it here when we get us further on. Now, that's a new mine new tipple at Mine 19. And that was, what year was that?
That was built in 1951, and first loaded coal September 1951, and last loaded coal April 1974. And by the way, it was 50 years ago last month that Brutus was set down, so that kind of time dates us a little bit. It shut down almost 50 years.
ago.
Yeah. Reserves. And by the way, we had it painted in the last year, or we got painted a year ago.
Yeah, we need an inside paint job now.
Yeah, what we're trying to do now is get enough funds to clean and paint all the inside of it, which is gonna be a job. And then I'll show you a little later on here why we're doing
You
it.
know, we're not owners of Big Brutus, we're just caretakers, and it's going on down to the next generation. You know, we want to pass it in good shape and hope they keep it in good shape.
Now that's inside of Big Brutus. Let's see, is that on the back? That's where the generator
Yeah,
is.
looking toward the front.
Looking right over the mouse.
That's where the motor generator set. We'd like to get either them replaced or replicas replaced, and there, we're talking about a lot of money there, if you can even get them. But, anybody has a rich relative, we know where you can put the money.
We are right now, we're on, I don't know, we haven't heard anything lately. A good friend of ours, they're in Pennsylvania, aren't they? They've got some motors, I think it's shells, they probably won't have the armature in them, but it'll be just like the whole motors of the swings and the hoist. Now, we do have, I'll tell you now, we've got 2 crowd motors that we just got built, replicas. They're completed. We're going to take them out and put them on display at Big Brutus probably this coming week. Jim Van Beesler, most of you know Jim Van Beesler in Pittsburgh. He built them for us out of wood. They look exactly like the motors that come out there. And but we want to store them inside the museum, both of them, and they'll be on display probably by the end of the week.
They'll go on Brutus as soon as we get the inside painted. You can see we need to have the inside painted.
Yeah, it's pretty.
When we
Paint is chipped.
when we get done with it another 50 years, it's gonna look like a brand new machine.
I had one man come out there today, said, if I was a billionaire, I would just I'd build that thing and have it running, and I'd sit out here and show people how it worked. So, yeah, that's a good dream. Of course, that's inside of the control panel of Big Brutus. And out there in front, I'll tell you a bit about that. We put it in an RV park. 14 brand new, modern day RV park. It's got everything. The electric, the water, the sewer, and it's been quite an operation, but it's something that we wanted. And we took 140 loads of dirt off of the bank in front of Big Brutus to haul out there to fill in so we wouldn't have low spots. Now then, we're going to landscape all that out. You used to couldn't see with just a little body of water. Now you can see the whole thing. And people just love it. And I believe she said the other day, since we opened up the new RV park, we've had, 117
Something like that, yeah.
already that has used our park.
If I understood it right, we've got Airstream coming in with a bunch of Airstream later on this
Yep.
year.
And she's already booked for a lot of this local people. We've got local people wants to come out there and park. But we was a little bit premature because we had some big ones come out there. I mean, big ones they'd have pickup on behind them. And we got one stuck. We had to call Payne out there, pull him out. But he was happy. He never grumbled. He just the people come out there are kind of like coal miners. They're just really people. Not that they ain't all good people, but I'm kind of partial to coal miners. I don't know why. You ask a man what he does, he won't say he worked in the mines. He said, I'm a coal miner. Is that right, Harold? Everybody that just natural says, I'm a coal miner. They're proud of it. Because this is the circle rail around, this is how that machine swings on them rollers right there. I don't know how many of them
I don't know how many was there. You can see the automatic greaser on there on every one of them. And I think they had to stop the machine and hook that up every so often. And them are automatic greasers. They'll grease a certain amount depending on the time interval that they want to do the greasing on each one of them rollers.
You oiled on it, didn't you, Harold?
Can I tell you a little story about that?
Yeah.
Dollars. That automatic oiler on there, you grease all of them in about 2 minutes. You plug that oiler in and push the button and it greased all of them. They had a line run to each one of those bearings. And one night, usually did this at supper time when the operator sat down to eat lunch, because otherwise they're always moving. There's one way or the other all the time. And this one night, Dave shut down, and I went down there to oil him, and I dropped down in there, and the swing shaft was on fire. And that swing shaft is what drives this thing. And there's 3 swing shafts down in there that swing those dollies that makes that thing turn. But we'd had trouble with this one swing shaft, had a bad bearing, and we'd been washing it, but anyhow, it caught fire. And just as I dropped down there, it was a pretty good little fire. And I popped back up out of there. You had to go down the ladder and go outside. This is outside on the edge of the catwalk on the outside of the machine. And I go in there, and Dave's just sitting down to eat lunch, and I hollered, "We got a fire in the hole." And he passed me, and there was 2 fire extinguishers on each side of the door, just outside the operator's cab. He had one in each hand, and he running down them stairs, and he had that thing out in about 10 minutes. And if he hadn't, I don't know what happened. Of course, there's grease about that thick laying all around that machine in there, where that grease melts off of them dollies when they get hot. But anyhow, that was an experience I didn't forget. But we had some close calls, and we had some lucky ones too. Thanks, Jim.
We could tell you several stories.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one, and it'd be hard to believe when you see Big Brutus. We had a slide in from the where we dumped the old dirt into the hole. You dig the dirt, and then you dump it over, and the next bit goes in the hole. Well, they was dumping it in there, and the man called the superintendent, I think it's Paul Grant, wasn't it? They called. Yeah, and said, "I think you better get down here." Said, "This machine's gonna turn over." And it had pushed it across the coal, slid it across the coal. And they got the bucket around, and of course it was pretty wet. They got the bucket, turned it around, and tried to hold the bucket into the barn to try to keep it from sliding anymore. But it slid clear across the pit, and the tracks were starting to go like that. It took, 3 weeks? Within 3 weeks to dig it out. On the operator's panel, you could walk out that door and walk out on the dirt. Another time, it was pretty new at the time, Carmen and I was sitting out in front of the shovel, and they were digging, and we was eating our dinner, and I don't remember. Let's see. Right up here, that wheel right up there sits on a big trunnion, one on each side. And we was eating dinner, and pretty soon we looked up, and that thing was falling out of the top of the boom. Fell on the ground, cables and all.
I think they said it was 30 ton each, wasn't it?
Yeah, 30 ton.
Point shiv and the trunnion. And I wasn't looking directly at it, and the ground shook, and what the hell was it? And that's what it was. And there was a tourist at that time. They didn't mind tourists coming down to the pits, and he was right in front of the shovel watching it dig, and he was taking steps about that big.
But the next morning, wasn't it? By daylight the next morning, Belger had cranes down there from Kansas City, big cranes. And they worked around the clock. It was 2 weeks they had it welded back.
11 days.
How many?
11 days with Harold. We grew up welder leads up there right when that happened.
Oh, 11 days.
They put that thing back in there at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They
11 days.
finally got it ready to go, and here come, Belcher was waiting down there. And at 11 o'clock at night, the cables got tight, and here that thing comes, and we put it in there. Were you up there, John?
Yeah, I was up there a lot.
Well, I don't remember who all the crew was when we was up there, but Amo and,
Probably was.
yeah,
Well, there's stories like that we could tell you
yeah.
that happened. I thought when that shield fell out there, a pretty new machine, I thought, oh my world, is this the end of it? And I didn't know it was 11 days, John, to tell you. I'm glad you told me that. Okay, this is how the machine was leveled. There was one of them hydraulic cylinders on each end, each corner. And every time they move up, it just automatically set on automatic and it leveled itself. So the machine was always, on the top end, was always level. these pads right here, each one of them pads weighs 2,000 pounds. And how many's on there, Harold?
I forgot.
Oh, wow.
I used to know, I forgot.
Well, when it come out, they were too small. And Bucyrus had to replace them with these bigger ones because it was holding the machine up.
Roughly 30.
Huh?
There's roughly 30.
30?
Yeah.
You counted them, ain't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's 30 on each belt.
And there's 8 times 30 on the machine.
Yeah. Mhm.
8 times 30.
The pins that hold them together weigh 75 pounds, and pins that go in there, each one of them pins is 75 pounds.
This is a power cable. We had 1,500 foot of that on each end of the machine on a big reel. We had up in the field, we had a gooseneck that hung over there and had cable come down into that box I showed you earlier. But
That's,
it, when
that cable there is 600,000 circular mills, and the full load on that, I think we calculated to be about 500 amps with Brutus digging a full load. And they probably exceeded that because it could probably exceed 100% some of the time. Our field cables were larger than that. The only 2 cables that size were the 2 on the machine. The ones in the field were 800,000 circular mills. And we had about 5 miles of cable, best I can remember.
But we had a big machine. I mean, it takes equipment to, you don't carry that around in your arm. What, could we completely splice the cable in 8 hours?
In 8 hours, you know, and it's quite a deal because if you had to cut a complete chunk out of it, then you had to stagger the splices in order so it wouldn't be fat in the middle, you know, you had 3, and you had to be pretty accurate on your cutting when you cut it, because if you got one a little bit long, then you got a hump, so. But it would take us about 2 of us about 8 hours for a complete splice. That's starting like it is now, and cutting back and cutting the size and then insulating each one of them.
And that didn't matter if it's 20 below 0, 2 foot of mud, we still had to go do it.
And if it was rainy or wet, Brutus would be digging on the other cable, and you'd get shocked on it just by static voltage. You know, it wasn't voltage. It was just static voltage induced into the cable.
When little kids ask about it, we tell them, well, that's the extension cord to Big Brutus. This was the old Temple.
That is Katy mine. It says at Mineral City. I don't know which one that was. That's not the Crescent mine, but the Crescent mine would look similar.
Yeah, it's at MKT.
That might have been an East Mineral.
What is this?
That's a motor for the lift, for an elevator.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's the spool there that the cable would come up on over
Yeah.
there.
Now, this is a pinning machine. And Dave said, well, what is a pinning machine? Well, back then they used to load clean coal, very clean coal, where they'd clean it off real good. And then this machine here, it had a great big steel box. I mean, it was all solid iron, and it had a big pin in the bottom of it that was pointed. And it'd go up that chain and get up the top, pull a little lever, and it would fall to the ground and break the coal. Then, later on, they got to think that they could make more money selling coal, so they added a little far clay with it. So they took bulldozers with rippers and ripped the coal. Well, that ripper get down in the far clay, and you know what happened there. But that went on several years, didn't it? Yeah, and
That's not the real signage. That's somebody added to the picture that signage on that Fidelity coal and
okay, here, is this what you want to?
Yeah, I got a letter, and maybe some of these people will be surprised here, from Charlie Quanto in 1989. I used to talk to the old timers about deep mining and what was still in existence when they were kids, you know. And Charlie Quattle took trouble to write me a letter and draw me a map of some of the mines he remembered. And I don't know whether the next picture will show the map or not. Yeah, there it is there. And this is the map he drew, and I have the copy here. It shows West Mineral, and this is on a scale, each square mile is 2 inches. And here is Mineral here, and so it shows the Crescent Mine. Number 1, which would be up the left-hand corner, is a Mackey mine, and that's on Sue Ellen's property. Sue Ann's property, not Sue Ellen. And number 2 on the map, there's number 6, and that would have been west of Sue Ann's. Number 3 was the Crescent Mine, and it's in West Mineral. And Charlie said that when he was a kid, Crescent was still digging. And I have a copy of an interview that Angelo Tell gave to some editor. And he said that 450 men worked in the Crescent Mine, in or around the Crescent Mine. Now that's hard to believe. The population of Mineral is 200, so that would be 2 1/8 or 2 1/4 times the amount of people worked at the Crescent Mine, which is just a half a mile or half a block east of the store in Mineral. And number 4 on Forello's property, or on what's her name? That is the Oberzon mine, number 11, where he's got. I didn't know the Oberzons had mines, but I guess they did. The Oberzon number 11. Number 5 would have been Big 5, called Big 5, and that was south of the depot in Mineral. And number 7, number 8, he didn't know the name of. And number 9 was a Dinky, and I think they called Dinkies were like a family owned a mine, or maybe non-union miners, or a couple, 3 guys got together and had their own mine.
Now, that was all underground, right?
Oh, it is all underground, yeah.
Hey, Carmen, where is number 6?
Number 6 was, it would have been.
West.
It would have been out by Markley's place somewhere, right in that area.
On the Barnes place.
Where?
On the Barnes place, wasn't it?
It's a mile south of me and then a quarter west of it, number 6.
That was all stripped in that
Yeah,
area.
yeah, that was stripped.
After, but they deep mined.
There was a deep mine there, Carmen.
Yeah.
There was a deep mine right there. The dump was right there by the road, right there to my intersection.
Like I say, number 4 on the map there,
Harold?
that's the one on Mary Ann Martin's place.
Was that called Johnny Myers, number 6?
What?
Johnny Myers? John Myers.
Was it John Myers, number 6?
I don't remember. All I knew was they called it number 6. George referred to me as number 6. And the 950 dug right in that area. It dug all that area, but there's a corner right there of that Barnes place that's not stripped, and that was deep mine. So that mine sat right in there, and they stripped right up around that.
I think, didn't Carlines live out there one
Yes.
time, out that area?
They live right
Yeah,
there at
and I
number
think that's
6.
where they call number 6s. And
That's where
maybe-
Carlines live.
Maybe Leonard worked there, I don't know.
Yep.
But,
That's there was 4 or 5 houses there for a long time. I helped tear some of them down.
Hamilton Camp was right south of the depot in Mineral, and that was where he said number 5. And I remember when I was a kid, we called that Big Nickel, I think.
All right, back. Some of the improvements we made, the Boccia family, Carmen's oldest brother, him and his wife passed away with COVID. And I went to the funeral they had both of their funerals on the same day. They left and wanted us to build a sandbox at Big Brutus for kids. So we got the Amish people come over, and they gave us a bid, and we started building a sand pile. That sand pile is full, every nice day is full of kids. I mean, it's a good sized sand pile. It's got seats on each end. It's not sand in there, we got little tiny rock. And it's clean. And you don't have it like the sand get all over your clothes. This don't get over your clothes. It's real nice. But the Boccia family gave that to us, and it has really been great for Big Brutus. All the big events we had one time we had a bunch of bouncy things out there. There wasn't anybody in the bouncy balls that was on that same pile. Oh. Now that, I don't know what you're knowing by that, that is Big Boccia. Big Boccia is one of the main ones that ever got Big Brutus and the museum going. But when they shut Big Brutus down, the state says you got 5 years. You got to tell us. You're either going to put it back in operation or you're going to get it off the property. Down in Kentucky, they had a 3850. It was a 20-yard machine. This is 90 yards. It was 20. And they cut the boom, dropped the boom on the ground, took the A-frame off, took a big drag line and covered it up with dirt. It was cheaper to do that than it was to try to cut it up for gilt. And then I found out later that a lot of the machines that was left there, that it was cheaper to bury them than it was to tear them down. Sad, but that's your government. They like to do things like that. This is our new manager, Cindy Morse, and she has done a tremendous job. She's got big ideas. It's kind of funny. We was looking for a manager, and one day she walked up to me. She said, "Jim, I kind of be interested in that job because our other manager's going to retire." And he said he would stay till we found some. She come up to me, and I thought, "You, Cindy, you want a manager's job?" She worked at the college, had a good job at the college. She worked for Gene Bicknell for 20 plus years. I said, "Let me see what I can do." And the reason I said me is because you can get these jobs on the board real easy. You just can't get rid of them. I know. But anyway, I'm chairman of the board, so I got a hold of 3 board members, and I said, "Hey, I think we may have a manager." I tell you what, she come off, she took a $10,000 a year cut in pay to come work for us. So we felt pretty important.
I wanted to say something about Cindy. Cindy is an idea person. She has ideas, and these are just, they seem like little things. You say, well, anybody could have thought of that. Cindy does think of it, and she does it. And
Put it together and makes it work.
she just changed the way the ropes were set up in the museum. It changed the atmosphere around all those models entirely. You could get closer to them, you could see them better. And she's done a number of things around the place that just little things that just make it so much nicer.
Well, she does a lot of changing inside. We have people come back 4 or 5 times a year. Every year. We got one little boy, 7 years old. He's been there every year for 7 years. He came there when he was 1 year old. That was his #1 birthday present. And he's been back ever since then. When he walks through them doors, his eyes are about that big around. And it's amazing that, and then we have a lot of people that their grandkids, they bring their grandkids back, and then they bring their great-grandkids back. Of course, it takes a lot of people to get 21,000 people in a year. And
We had one little boy, I think when Joe was the manager, he'd been there the year before and he seen we had a paint fund going. He come in the following year, dumped a bunch of pennies on the table and said, "That's for the paint fund." Save these pennies all year.
Is he the one that wanted to be the engineer? Is he the one that wanted to be the engineer that talked to you?
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
he's cute.
This is Cindy's son. He's very intelligent when it comes to computers, and he's been a tremendous help. And if everything works right, she says he's gonna retire in 4 or 5 years. He'll probably step in her place, and we'll be very fortunate. This is another one of our employees, Sue Brisbane. She's our daytime worker, and she's very good, very good. This is so funny. Yeah, I told him, I said, you look a lot better without a beard, but he won't pay no attention to him. Delbert Calloway, and he is a ball of fire. It took us, after the managers left after the pandemic, we had, I mean, it was hell trying to find employees. I mean, we harmed, they looked like good. We even had one little girl that she'd been in prison because she sold a baby 4 years ago. But she looked good, but anyway, that's another story. If you got good employees, keep them, all I can say. And this is old Pidge. I ain't even gonna tell you about that story.
Wait, are we done?
No, I think I turned it off, probably. What'd I do here?
I think we are done.
You see the maintenance man?
Oh, yeah, we're done.
Huh?
We're done.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, we're done. You can keep talking if you want to, though.
Anybody more you want to say?
No, that's
Harold,
good enough.
John? Anybody else?
Jim, I want.
Yes.
You've got an event coming up, don't you, Sue, out there, summer event?
June the 1st, we have annually fish fry for the retired coal miners. Cindy is combined. She's gonna have, for kids, she's gonna have bouncy houses. They'll board up the arcade with all kinds of them animals. He's got 2 or 3 camels, and he's got little horses, big horses. He's gonna be out there. She says it's gonna be a pretty big.
Free snow cones.
Petting zoo, I think you call
Petting,
it.
yeah.
Food trucks.
And a lot of food trucks, and so far.
I'm gonna have a band too.
Yeah, there's gonna be a band. So that'll be, but now in September, our big off-road, where all of our off-road. Outlanders come, Big Iron, they'll be there in September. But I'm sure she'll have something else before that. She's done, her little brain's go like that.
When Big Iron comes, they bring their rigs with them, and I did an estimate. I figured it was worth $80,000 a piece, and what was it, 200? At one point, we probably had $16 million worth of equipment on the big cruise property.
And we had 3 bands, had a big turnout. Had a good turnout. But she's got a lot of things in there. But I'm amazed of how wonderful people are when you go out and ask them for something. I tell you what, it pays to ask. And like Matt Blessing, that rock, that's unbelievable. We couldn't afford to buy the rock that it took. We didn't show the RV park.
Yeah, I messed. That's my fault. I didn't get a picture of it.
You're to blame.
That's right. I'll take the blame. I didn't get a picture, but it's beautiful. There's 14 spaces, and they've done a wonderful job with it. Really.
When Big Iron was there last year, they hired a band from Springfield. And when that band leader come there, he said, "This is the biggest piece of farm equipment I ever seen."
Larry, yes.
Yes, I'd like to say Big Brutus is great. I worked there when I got out of the Navy, and I'm president of the Heart of the Heartless, and we're on the way to Big Brutus. We get a lot of their overflow, so if you want to come and see the Corona Depot and our railroad museum, please stop by.
Yeah, they've done it.
No admission, just come in and take a look around.
Speaking of railroads, steam train's coming through tomorrow. Are you gonna announce that?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, steam train's coming through Pittsburgh on Tuesday. It's supposed to be crew change at 10 o'clock. So
And
approximately,
what time?
crew change 10 o'clock Tuesday morning.
And where's that going to be?
It's Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Where? Where?
Well, the crew change will probably happen under the overpass at 23rd, but if I was you, I'd go down to 10th and 7th Street, where the train used to come through. That'd be a great place to watch it.
If you could get through the traffic. There's gonna be a lot. Emmett Sullivan is going to go to Frontenac, Wright Street, East Frontenac, at the railroad track right there, and that's where he's gonna take his pictures.
Oh, wow.
So, I hope it, and they said, leaving Kansas City at 8 o'clock, it should show up here pretty 10 to 30. So, it'll be quite a sight to see.
Jim,
What else?
just wondered that when we were giving tours out there, when I was there with Big Brutus, we had a little boy come on a school trip one day, and he was just about down in the bowl, and he looked up at that thing and he said, "Boy, that's almost as big as the tree in our backyard." And I don't think I'll ever forget
No,
that.
you won't, you won't, well, you won't. What do you think, kid?
Are you finished? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, I just have a couple of announcements. I don't have my microphone on, but I think you can all hear me. Thank you, both of you guys. This is wonderful. But for those of you that don't know, when we opened the museum 11 years ago, one of the first things that we had, we were pretty excited about it. We were the host to a Smithsonian traveling exhibit, and it was like amazing. And we brought in more visitors than anyone else in the state and the other locations it was. So we were pretty proud of that. But these guys and Gigi Saketa brought that miniature, the mini Brutus, and
Little
they,
guy.
and they brought that in as part of an exhibit. They were like a co-host with us and gave programs, and they were here and they told people about how it worked and everything. So we thank them for that. But my point of this is that none of us are competing with each other. Just like the train museum, Corona, we're all working together. None of us are competing with each other. Crawford County Museum, we want to bring people to the area to learn more about us and all that we do here. And there's a lot of stories to be told, like the train that's coming through and your museum and Big Brutus. So that's our goal, is we want to share this wonderful story with everyone. So anyway, we thank you guys. And like I say, the Smithsonian, that was a wonderful exhibit, what you helped bring in and brought those pieces of equipment over here. And we appreciate that. So just a couple of short announcements about our museum. If you aren't a member, we invite you to become a member. Very inexpensive. It's $25 an individual, $50 a member, and the membership dinner is worth the price of your membership.
That's for sure. That is for sure.
Yeah, you'll enjoy the membership dinner, and then there's a lot of other perks that go with it. But we invite you, and there's cards at the back reception desk where you can become a member. Another thing, and I've mentioned it a few times, we are in the process of applying for a grant. Well, we've already applied for the grant. We're waiting to hear word. We've made it through the first stage for a 7-foot screen has been donated to us by Broadway Electronics. So it'll fill the whole thing here. So you won't have to be looking at that small TV screen. So we're hoping to hear something within the next couple of weeks, because like I say, we've made it beyond the first stage. So they donated the screen, but we have to purchase the projector. So that's what we're looking for funding to do that. And then our two little drag lines, one little and one big. If you haven't seen it yet, the little Inslee has been moved and it's back here on the grounds, and that was donated by Mission Clay. And we've just got the boom up on it a couple of weeks ago. So it's all set in place. We haven't done anything to it. It's just there for viewing. We've got the big project going on, so it's just kind of, this just happened out of the clear blue, like, hey, I know somebody and they'll donate this, and so we moved it here. Later on, we'll be doing more with the little Inslee. The page 618 is our big project. That is the walking drag line that'll be located down here at 47 and 69, Gennardi's Corner. And it is going to be the largest walking drag line preserved on display in the whole United States. There are only 4 walking drag lines on the whole North American continent. 2 are in Canada, 1 is here, and 1 is in Oregon. So it's really kind of a big deal for us. So it's going to be a great thing to be working with you guys. I mean, because Brutus is so unique in its own way, and this is going to be so unique in its own way. So, and we're ready for it. We have the funds to move it. We have the people waiting to do it. Mother Nature is our holdup. So people are always asking, when are you going to move that? And, you know, that all the equipment, like they can't even get in there where it is to lower the boom because their equipment is so heavy and it is just mud everywhere. So even if we get a couple days sunshine, it's supposed to rain again We just don't know when it's gonna be moved, but we're ready. So as soon as Mother Nature cooperates and gives us a week of sunshine, we'll probably get that moved. So, I think that's else. Anything else,
I
JT?
want to say one thing. There's a lot of stuff that when we go to the grave, it's going with us. A lady come up to me the other day and she said, Jimmy, I think we're related. I said, what? She said, I think we're related. And she started looking back in our ancestors. The next time I see her, she said, hi, cuz. And in my family, we have some stuff, but I haven't had time to look through it. But leave it with your kids. They need it. They'll need it, and they probably won't ask for it.
And
I
if they
didn't.
don't want it, maybe they can donate it to a genealogy society. Like
Or the museum, yeah. If they don't want it, make it sure that they give it to a museum.
Okay.
Also, I've got it.
You got the. Good for you. But anyway, because all this stuff's going to the grave, and you ain't gonna bring it back. So whatever you can write down, leave it with your kids or something. It's history, folks.
That's
that
good.
you'll never run into.
Amen.
Well, that's why these programs we think are important, and David videotaping them, because that's what we were just saying, look at the wealth of information you two fellows have here, and plus the comments from the guests here. Well, he's got that now videotaped, so, you know, you tell it to kids and they might remember part of it, but if it's not written down, they won't remember. I wish I had asked my parents more questions
Oh, I
too,
do
the
too,
same way.
yeah.
So this is wonderful that we're doing this, and we have a program every month, so same way, if you follow us on Facebook, and they're all different topics. This quarter is all about West Mineral and that area, so each quarter is something different, so follow us on Facebook.
And then that one.
I have something.
Okay.
I'm a member of the genealogy department in Crawford County, which is housed in the public library in Pittsburgh. And we have all kinds of information if you want to get involved with genealogy. We have, if your parents came or grandparents came from a foreign country, we have their declaration of naturalization. Oh, there she is. She's the lady.
Right.
But anyway, and we're open 9 to 1 every day, Monday through Friday, and except Monday, and Ella will be there in the afternoon, and she's the lady to talk to. But if you want to do any kind of genealogy in your family, we've got tons of information. We've got stuff online.
Pittsburgh Public Library.
Pittsburgh
Oh,
She's there on Monday afternoon, and they're there all week at the library. Somebody's there.
Yes.
But Ella's also in Cherokee County down at the Cherokee County
is
Museum,
Wonderful, yeah.
right by the fire station there on Maple, and that's been a great resource for me.
Well, Ella's very good.
Right. So
And
we
she
have,
volunteers.
We have snacks for you back here and beverages. You're welcome to stay and visit with the coal miners that are here or just with each other. And we appreciate all of you.
Congratulations,
If
man.
you have any questions, just keep
Congrats, man.
one of the miners here. Thank you all for
The
coming.
Royals are ahead 8-1.
That was wonderful. You guys